Conny hat es mir dann alle vorgestellt und dann haben wir eigentlich da experimentiert. Keiner wusste eigentlich genau, was machen wir eigentlich da. Da haben die ja so ein Schlagzeug aufgebaut, das war aber so ein Kinderschlagzeug, wo die dann gespielt haben. Wir haben Soundcheck gemacht und rumprobiert. Und eines Tages war auch mal eine Grille im Studio, das war ein Riesenstudio. Und dann haben wir so einen großen Galgen da hochgefahren, haben dann einen Song, ich weiß nicht, ob der auf der CD drauf ist oder auf dem Album, einen Song mit einer Grille gemacht. Die war aber live im Studio, ne? Und das war eigentlich immer toll. Man hat immer probiert, war natürlich auch ein bisschen so, manchmal im Rausch, das gehörte dazu damals, ne? Und so ist das alles entstanden. Der ist offen für alles. Der hat auch hier die Blackfoes produziert, also eine Kölner Gruppe, die Karneval zusammen machen. Gianna Nannini kam hier hin. Der war einfach ein Typ, der konnte auf die Menschen zugehen, konnte das rauskitzeln, was derjenige hat, ne? Da war ein Fachmann drin, ne? Und eben die Ruhe selbst, wenn dann einer nicht so konnte, das war ganz in Ruhe, ganz relaxed, nochmal und dann machen wir das noch. Der hat sich wirklich viel Mühe gegeben, ne? Die konnten schon ganz gut spielen, aber sie haben eigentlich immer nur probiert, so habe ich das in Erinnerung, das ist ja schon etwas länger her, ne? Technisch gut spielen konnten sie eigentlich nicht, aber sie hatten eben tolle Ideen und mit dem wenigen kann man vergleichen mit dem Gitarrist von Procol Harum, der hatte eigentlich nichts drauf, aber die paar Töne, die er gespielt hat, die saßen, das war bei denen genauso, ne?
Kraftwerk's self-titled debut was issued in late 1970 on the Philips label, only months after the release of Tone Float. With both accessible and highly experimental material contained across its 4 tracks, it went on to sell 60,000 copies in Germany.
It was distinguished by the use of the flute. I mean, the flute and very light keyboards and this lovely patina of percussion that they were generating from the bass keys of the keyboard. And there was a lightness to it and there was a clarity to it that was very different. They were going for a much more minimalistic sound. It wasn't a huge band improvising in the studio. It wasn't loud and noisy and hitting you over the head. It was basically sounds and music that was very well organized.
Musikalisch finde ich das immer noch toll, ne? Also bei dem Ruckzuck, wir das aufgenommen haben, also da waren wir selber so begeistert, dass wir das immer wieder hören mussten und immer dran gearbeitet haben. Da wusste man, das ist es, das spürt man dann, ne? Es gibt so im Studio verschiedene Situationen, wenn auf einmal man das immer wieder hören will, was man da aufgenommen hat, dann ist da irgendwas dran, ne?
Rucksack was a track that was solidly based on building rhythms and putting them together in a way that, you know, would become memorable and danceable to, I should imagine. So they were interested in compressing their sound in a way and creating a rhythmic stride to it that would appeal, I should imagine. They were trying to be appealing as well as, you know, revolutionary.
The thing about Kraftwerk 1 is that it ends with this track, Von Himmel hoch, or coming down from the heavens. And it just sounds like falling bombs coming down on top of you and exploding. And that would be very pertinent to the German experience. The difference between Kraftwerk and the other bands wish to totally disassociate themselves from the past of the Germans' history. And they also wish to actually make a totally new, using the hippie ideal of freeform improvisation. But Kraftwerk were different. They were willing to embrace the past. And in so doing, they actually, in the long term, they invented a new kind of aesthetic that people around the world could really relate to by using humour and experiment and brilliant understanding of electronic sound. They've made their own. They basically remade German identity and made it something to actually look at. And you can feel it on Kraftwerk 1. They're actually willing to embrace the fact that a lot of bombs were both dropped on and by Germany. And this is an experience that, let's say, Stockhausen had gone through firsthand, being a stretcher bearer in the Second World War. A lot of bombs were dropped on him. He escaped. And so this was a very brave thing to do in some ways. And it was obviously they weren't going to shun the past.
I missed the organization record, and I think whole Germany missed it because it was not released here. So it started really with the first Kraftwerk here. Well, again, people made jokes and said, it's like, well, are they with the tape in a noisy house? What do they do? Yeah, this is not music. This is maybe it's experimental music. Yes, we can accept that, but it has nothing to do with the underground scene, with the alternative scene, with the rock scene. It's okay. It might be interesting, but it is something for a very limited audience. Yeah, for the art people or something.
Indeed, Kraftwerk promoted the album with a tour not of rock clubs, but of universities, parties and art galleries. A modest success and released only domestically, it nevertheless introduced the band to new listeners and placed them on the musical map. During the first half of 1971, however, the band underwent many dramatic changes. Ralf Hutter unexpectedly quit, leaving Florian Schneider to lead a perpetually changing ensemble. Eventually, guitarist Michael Rother joined the band, with Klaus Dinger the lone drummer. Although this lineup did record several tracks with Conny Plank and made a TV appearance, it was not to last. Yet the German scene itself was proving that it did have staying power, with Ashra Tempel's groundbreaking self-titled debut Unleashed in June, and both Cluster and Popol Vuh's second albums faring well with the critics, and ensuring that they kept their small but secure audiences. Festivals and performances featuring the scene's leading lights continued to introduce the various bands to new listeners, and the release of Cannes' seminal Tego Mego proved that experimental German music was alive and well in the new decade. Many of these acts, including Kraftwerk, were now releasing music that was totally unlike anything produced anywhere else in the world.
We were pretty much aware that we weren't raised in the Mississippi Delta, or we weren't raised in Liverpool, and it was certainly not our identity. And having an artistic mind somehow, probably I didn't know at that time, I think our generation had to come up with a counterpoint to that. It wouldn't, it doesn't make sense really to play the music you really love, you really like. It's one thing, but coming up with an own genuine idea and by defining your own reality and your own culture, you have to come up with some other thing.